The American M1 helmet is one of the most iconic and recognizable pieces of military history ever created. From the shores of Normandy all the way into the deep jungles of Vietnam, the M1 has proven to be one heck of a reliable and effective piece of equipment.
This is the story of how this simple yet ingenious design became the symbol of military history that it is today.
When you see these three different items, you probably associate each one with its respective conflicts, and that is certainly the case for the M1 helmet. Most famous for its use in World War II, the M1 was created as a replacement for the outdated M1917 helmet, which was a counterpart to the British Brodie. Although simple to manufacture, the Brodie proved to have some obvious flaws in its design. Foremost, it simply left large parts of the soldier's head unprotected, especially the back and side areas. It also didn't help that it was quite uncomfortable to wear because of the lack of a well-designed helmet liner, so in the late 1930s, the US government went through several designs, but eventually settled on the M1. And this helmet was certainly an upgrade. Not only did it cover most of the head, it also included a new, very swagger inner liner, copied directly from civilian football helmets.
This ensures that, as you can see, there's quite some room between the helmet and your head.
And this space increased both the breathability and the size compatibility of the helmet. That is why the M1 was able to become a one-size-fits-all design, since you can simply tighten or loosen the grip of the liner inside. But let us also not forget about the infamous chin strap. Starting in World War II, a myth circulated that in case of a direct impact or blast on the helmet, the whole thing would be rocked back so hard that the strap would break your neck. Even though this was proven to be false, since a blast powerful enough to do this would most likely kill you anyways, soldiers still insisted on keeping the strap open, just in case. And by the way, because the helmet is composed of a liner and an outer shell, soldiers realized that you could really use the shell for anything, from digging trenches to even cooking. And when in safety, like during military parades, soldiers could just put on the liner without the shell, to reduce the weight and to make it more comfortable to wear. But hold on a minute, there's probably a more important question on your mind right now.
How effective is the helmet at actually stopping bullets or other projectiles?
Well, if we want to answer that question fairly, we first have to understand that the main function of all World War II designed helmets were to protect its wearer from incoming shrapnel or debris, and therefore they were not designed to stop a direct impact by a rifle round, for example. But either way, here's a video of a few tests.
Oh boy, it stopped right over there. On the outside. Did not go through. I can go second round. It went through, right?
As you can see, it might stop some small arms projectiles, but you definitely can't call it bulletproof. Although this helmet did reduce World War II casualties by around 8%, therefore saving approximately 76,000 American lives. And this success made sure that it was used by the US all the way up to 1985, which during this time span, it saw multiple wars like Korea, Vietnam, and even the Falklands conflict. But the M1 only became the popular icon that it is today largely because of the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, camouflage helmet covers started being commonly issued, which helped the helmet to mask in better with the tropical environment. Most recognizable of these covers was the Mitchell camo pattern, which was two-sided, meaning that you could simply invert the cover to get a more arid look.
This specific configuration that I have is the M81 woodland pattern, which only really started seeing service, as the name suggests, in 1981.
But going back to Vietnam, some soldiers started customizing their helmets by, for example, scribbling different mottos, like the famous "War is hell," or my personal favorite, "War is good business, invest your son." These writings were one of the few ways that the soldiers could express their discontent for the war, and in this way, the M1 started symbolizing something completely different. From being the helmet of the good guys in World War II, to being the symbol of the brutal and devastating Vietnam War, the M1 symbolism truly indicated just how much the public's perception of war had changed over time. And famous movies like Full Metal Jacket or Platoon just helped to reinforce this narrative even more. Although, post-1975, it is incredibly rare to find examples of soldiers who've altered their gear in the same way that we saw in Vietnam. Because of stricter uniform regulations and a stronger cultural emphasis on conformity, this practice has largely faded out with time, so we're probably not going to see any helmet or gear scribbling in the near future. But finally, in 1985, the M1 was decommissioned and replaced with a PASGT helmet that had much better ballistic protection since it was made out of Kevlar, which at the time was a newly invented material. Sadly, the thin steel pot simply couldn't keep up with the rapid innovation of its time, but the fact that it was issued and used for 45 years proves what a robust design this truly was. All of the historical factors that add up is probably what makes the M1 such an icon. It has seen and been through so much, to the point that it represents multiple historical and political eras.
If you exclude the AK-47, there probably won't ever be a more representative item for the wars of the 20th century than the M1 helmet.
That is exactly why the M1 helmet story is worth telling and remembering, because it truly represents something much bigger than the helmet itself.